lot of headlines out of Chicago focusing on the issue around the migrant crisis that even Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson recognizes is a national humanitarian crisis. And that's after Democrats seem to keep the word crisis out of their mouths whenever they talked about the southern border. But it's not just the migrant issue. You've got the ongoing concerns of regular incidents of violent crime in Chicago. Somebody who's in Chicago day after day looking at these issues and more is William J. Kelly, reporter, and he joins us now. Good morning, William. Let's get right on into it. What are you seeing there on the ground?
Thank you for having me, Greg. Yeah, I, as you know, and I have to say it, I was born and raised in Chicago, and I love Chicago with all my heart. So it does break my heart to report these stories. Again, another violent weekend in Chicago. It brings me no joy to say 30-plus shot, half a dozen or plus fatalities. Some people would say, hey, that's good. Those are good numbers for Chicago on a weekend. It's really not good numbers. If that was Iraq, if that was Afghanistan, that would be considered a bloody weekend by any standard. So, and of course in Chicago, for whatever reason, and Chicagoans say this with a straight face. It's not even like a joke or something. They say, well, it was cloudy out. It was, it wasn't sunny out. So, so that explains the low numbers. What kind of a crime strategy, violent crime strategy in the city of Chicago is just basically praying for clouds.
Yeah, I don't know if that is the right type of policies to curb crime, but
right.
What are you hearing from citizens on the ground? I mean, of course, you've got the policies from Kim Foxx and
right.
The new Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, peacekeepers on the streets and whatnot, more funding for after-school work programs and so on, and summer programs for the youth. But what are you hearing from people on the ground that have to experience this every day like you do?
Well, there you go again, Greg. Thank you. What the real people on the streets of Chicago are saying to me, both, police officers and just regular everyday people, not to mention, shopkeepers, store business owners, is that they see more and more funding going towards these various, questionable programs that are supposedly going to curtail violence, specifically youth violence, and of course, as you mentioned, migrants. Another, 10 million here, another 50 million there. Pretty soon, the money starts to add up to real money, as the old joke used to go, right? But first of all, as an investigative reporter, I'm having a heck of a time trying to figure out where any of this money is going. Who qualifies for these grants? What do they do with the money once they get it? Is there any accountability? Is there any follow-up or follow-through on anyone's part? This is, this is public money, and people need to be accountable, and that includes the mayor of the city of Chicago, the new mayor, Brandon Johnson. Mayor Johnson was speaking to the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce. And he repeated the phrase that I think he first trotted out in Springfield on your state capitol stairs, with that it's wrong to demonize the children. Well, first of all, that somehow suggests, if I was like from another planet and I heard a mayor say that, I would think to myself, well, yeah, of course, don't demonize any children. Who would do such a thing? Now, nobody is jumping to demonize, innocent children. What people in Chicago are fed up with is literally teenage carjackers, and that are violent, that literally jump out of a car, multiple attackers, by the way, guns drawn, and force, in some cases, families at gunpoint to exit their vehicle. Menace. Obviously, this is obviously a menacing, traumatizing incident for anyone, right? And then they speed off in the car. Now, believe it or not, there are some Democrats elected, public elected officials, let's say, from the Chicagoland area who go down to Springfield and actually vote on things that affect our families, our rights, our businesses, and who say, no, Johnson is right. Do not demonize these teen carjackers. Well, it's being reported now. I'm getting reports as we speak here, Greg, that 5 of these teenage, these children that Mayor Johnson doesn't want anyone to speak ill of, allegedly, this is in the early stages of an investigation, but from the reports that I'm getting, 5 teenagers stole a car and crashed into a fire hydrant. Now, once again, somebody might say, oh my gosh, don't you have better things to worry about, William Kelly? Well, according to the reports, all 5 teenagers are in critical condition. Now, once again, the person who brought this report to my attention, their question was, how many millions of taxpayer dollars is it going to cost to take care of 5 teenagers in critical condition? Especially if history is any guide, if they're going to be on disability for life now, what is the price tag? What is the price tag for somehow coddling? What's the word that came to my mind? This type of behavior. To have a mayor of the city of Chicago saying, "Don't demonize this behavior. Don't demonize it." The message is loud and clear that he somehow sees some justification in this behavior, and it encourages this behavior. And now we have 5 critically injured teenagers and countless, and God only knows what the medical bill is going to be for the taxpayers of Chicago.
We're talking with William J. Kelly, reporter. You can find him online, be it Twitter, William J. Kelly, or you can find him on his website, reporterwilliamjkelly.com. Finally here, William, tell us what the latest is with the migrant issue, undocumented migrants, those seeking asylum. After the break, we're going to hear from what Governor J.B. Pritzker and State Representative LaShawn Ford have to say about the issue. But what is the latest? You had, 400 plus migrants transferred from a YMCA to Daly College. Has that happened? And what are the roadblocks there?
Well, we're hearing people in the community speaking out against this. They, as we report, as essentially, I report on the issue and then amplify, through being a guest on your show. More and more people realize the absolute numbers, the numbers that are passing through of migrants, the fact that there's no vetting of these migrants. We don't know what their criminal record history is. We don't know what their health issues are. There's no vaccine. I remember there was a time, I can't remember what exactly it was, but vaccinations used to be a big issue, if you recall. And now we have migrants who are coming to Chicago and coming to a public school near you we have no idea who they are. We don't really know how old they are. We don't know what their criminal history is, what their health issues are, if they have any communicable diseases, what their vaccination status is. So, there are reports that police officers at the police stations where these migrants were housed in the lobby of the police stations have come down and with measles and other diseases that they would probably otherwise never have had in their lifetime or their families. And this migrant hotel that I've been reporting on, that I broke the story that they were housing these migrants at, there used to be something called health code violations, where if you or I had a hotel and people were just getting off of buses and and entering the hotel, and nobody had any idea how many people were being housed in a room or what the family relationships were between the middle age, the military aged men and the preteen girls. Nobody would, there would have been an outcry. There would have been inspectors from the city that would have guaranteed shut down that hotel and said, no, you don't. You're not going to have 10 people in a room that questionable relationships. We're not going to have any of that in our hotels. Well, now for some reason, it's our elected officials are saying that that's exactly what we're going to have. That's exactly what we need to be supporting with our tax dollars. It seems like a crazy double standard is what I'm hearing from every town hall meeting that I go to, every resident, every taxpayer, that they're saying it's a crazy double standard. And I think that is what is really starting to make this issue I guess the heat turn up on the issue as we get closer to summer.
No question that a lot of these questions resonating with people in Chicago and all throughout the state of Illinois, let alone other cities where this is happening as well, in sanctuary cities and welcoming cities. But how much is that double standard costing? William, I guess you and I are going to have to team up and try to find the receipts for all of these dollars going out from the city coffers, but also the state coffers, because it's tens of millions of dollars, not just for the crime prevention efforts, for peacekeepers and so on, but also for the migrant housing situation and the health care subsidies that state taxpayers are going to cover. So there's a lot more to be said about all this. William J. Kelly, find him on Twitter, William J. Kelly, or online at reporterwilliamjkelly.com. Greatly appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
Thank you, Greg.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Coming back, we will hear what Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say about the migrant issue, but also what State Representative LaShawn Ford out of Chicago has to say. So that's coming up here with Springfield's Morning News on WMAY. Some of the headlines out of Chicago: overcrowding, cold food, uncertain futures, a way of life for migrants in Chicago's shelters. More than 10,000 asylum seekers have arrived in Chicago since last August, arriving on buses, planes, and so on. Nonprofits dealing with that. But your tax dollars being used as well, not just in Chicago, but also by the state of Illinois. Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked what's going on with the migrant situation and how's the state dealing with this. Here's what the governor had to say yesterday at an unrelated event when asked about that particular issue in Chicago.
Well, the state doesn't provide oversight to the city. The state does provide support, however. As you know, we've provided multiple times the amount of funding that the city has had available to support the city. And we've also provided our personnel at the state level from the Department of Human Services. We also are in direct communication with folks, the nonprofit organizations in Texas, where many of these asylum seekers are being sent from. And we're doing as much as we are asked to do, as much as we can do to try to provide help at the local level in the city so that people have food, clothing, shelter, the basic needs, health care that they need. And, of course, I've been imploring the White House and the federal government to do two things. One is we need comprehensive immigration reform. But in the meantime, we ought to be allowing at least the asylum seekers who came here in the latter half of last year to now get work permits. We have jobs available for them. It would be better for them and better for everybody if they could work. They want to work. And so we've asked the White House to help us with that. They're looking at it, working on it, and say that they'll get back to us.
So it looks like more calls for the migrant situation to have federal stakeholders come in and help manage what's going on there. But when it comes to tax dollars being used, State Representative LaShawn Ford, he shared with my reporter Andrew Hensel about what some of the people on the ground who've been here for generations are feeling when it comes to the migrants getting these types of resources.
What people are feeling is that those that have been in these neighborhoods for generations, they've been treated inhumanely by the very government that's making efforts to provide the care to the asylum seekers.
And he said that any plan that's going to spend taxpayer resources should include Chicago residents affected by similar issues that the migrants are facing in Chicago when it comes to getting resources.
Everyone that's experiencing homelessness and trauma should be included in any plan that incorporates the refugees.
So we'll see what ultimately transpires and whether or not even more migrants come from the southern border to the welcoming city, the sanctuary city of Chicago, and how that's going to impact the rest of the state. We'll be watching that closely here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.